What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're checking out another ProTech prototype. In yesterday's video we checked out their new manual offering, the TR3 Integrity, announced at SHOT Show last week, announced at the same time as the knife we're checking out today, a new auto model, and this is the Sinkevich prototype. So a collaboration between ProTech and knife designer Dmitry Sinkevich. And if you're wondering, maybe you're watching this in the future, wondering why I don't just call it by the name of the knife. At the time I'm filming this model does not have a name yet. So obviously I would call it by that if I knew what that was, but I will update the title and description once we do have a name for this model. Both of these are aiming for a release at the end of June of this year. So still about 5 months or so away. I was able to get mine at Cal Knives. If you want more details on the background there, definitely check out that first video. Don't want to rehash it here. Now, unlike the Integrity, which is based off of an existing model, they turned the TR3 from an auto to a manual, made the changes obviously necessary to make that conversion, but we do have a kind of baseline of what to expect with that production model as well as the overall dimensions of that knife. This model is not based off of any previous ProTech design or even Sinkevich design, and so as far as I saw in the SHOT Show coverage, there was really no mention of dimensions. Obviously, retailers aren't going to have this for another 5 months or so, so there's no listings up on the internet. And so I did my best to measure those out, and I'll share those with you in this video as well. So let's get this box out of the way, take a look at the actual knife. Absolutely beautiful. The level of craftsmanship and attention to detail on this is insane. This one obviously is hand finished, so not going to be identical to the production version. I'll try and point out some of the things that we know will change, but I don't have any insight onto exactly what those changes are going to be either. So let's get it open before we take a closer look. First thing you'll notice is that beautiful compound mica ivory grind with the mirror polish finish. Same thing we saw on that TR3 Integrity. Now that's not going to be on the production model. They're not going to be hand finishing them obviously. And so we're going to get a standard grind instead of that compound grind, but should still get that same Sheepsfoot blade shape. And then looking at the handles, this one has a 17-4 hardened stainless steel. I don't know a lot about that. As far as I see, I don't really see other companies using it, but ProTech does use it a lot. And my understanding is that it's just as hard and durable as titanium. It is still stainless. It does weigh a decent bit more. This knife weighed in at 5.52 ounces on my scale, so pretty heavy overall, which I don't mind. Definitely has a very premium feel to it, and I love the way it looks, so not super worried about that. But we do have this kind of two-tone geometric milling pattern in the handle, which I think looks really great. Now, part of that is that blasted steel, and then they do a hand satin finish on the other tones, and so it really adds a layer of dimension to it and really makes those lines pop out even more so than they already would. I think it looks incredible. Now that does carry over to our non-show side scale, but you can see it's been altered a little bit to accommodate our pocket clip, and so flattened out up here where it mounts. And then also, going to be a little bit hard to show, but if you look underneath that, we do have this diamond shaped pattern that hasn't been milled, so that where that pocket clip meets the handle scale, it's not going to be tearing apart your jeans or anything like that. So really appreciate that touch. You'll also see an incredible level of milling on that backspacer, which I don't think is actually a backspacer. I think that's an extension of the handles, but it's acting as our backspacer, so that's what I'm going to call it. And really cool effect here, it continues on to the spine of that knife. And that's just a really nice touch. This does act as jimping. It's not the grippiest jimping. I wouldn't have minded seeing that just a hair deeper. It does grab onto your thumb a little bit, but not as effectively as some other jimpings that I've seen. Now, not only does it continue on the spine though, it also continues onto the tang of the knife, and there's really no reason for that besides just the aesthetic look of it. Hopefully that's picking up, but you can see that same spacing jimping across the entire tang of that knife. It's visible when it's open as well, but a little bit more visible while it's closed. And so, like I said, that's not really adding any function. It's just a nice level of detail that they added into this knife that I really appreciate. Now, we do have this black lip pearl inlay on the button. That's definitely not going to be on the standard production model, but I'm sure we'll see similar exotic materials in those inlays on show exclusives and maybe even some dealer exclusives as well, but I'm guessing the standard model will just have our standard button. Now they also have the nice blue accents with our titanium hardware, so titanium hardware throughout. You can see the body screws, even our pocket clip have that same anodization, and so I love the way that looks. One interesting thing is that it does not extend to the non-tool side of the pivot, and I'm not sure why. I thought maybe it was a mistake at first, but looking at the all 7 models that they brought to Cal Knives, none of them had color on that non-tool side pivot, but the tool side is blue, and so not sure why they went with that choice. I wouldn't have minded seeing that blue as well, but also doesn't really bother me. Nice contouring all the way around. The shape of this, just across the board from blade shape to handle shape, is absolutely beautiful. We have a nice swedge up here at the top of that blade as well, and it also feels good in hand. So we're looking at 7.5 inches overall, about ½ inch smaller than our Integrity, and that's 3¼ inches on our blade and then 4¼ inches on our handle. That blade still is 154 cm like we always see with the Mike Irie compound grinds. I would imagine that's going to change. We'll see a standard grind on some sort of different blade steel on the production model, but that 4¼ inch handle does allow us to get all 4 fingers on there very, very comfortably, really ergonomic. Like I said, that jimping's not adding a whole lot. It's not super jimpy grippy jimping. It's more there for aesthetics. It does add a little bit, but it's pretty minimal overall, and really the spine jimping's not doing much either. Now the milling pattern, which is more meant to be decorative as well, does add a decent bit of grippiness. Your fingers do lock in on that milling pattern, which is nice. And so that feels really, really good. The mini deep carry pocket clip disappears in your hand. And so ergos overall on this are excellent. Already mentioned that weight at 5.52 ounces. So that does add a little bit of heft and more premium feel to it, in my opinion. I do like that sometimes. In the hand especially. In the pocket, maybe it's a little bit more annoying when it's heavier, but in the hand is just something about a super heavy steel handle there that feels very nice overall. Now, we do have the regular standard mini deep carry pocket clip, not the new wide mini deep carry pocket clip, and that's probably because the wide one wouldn't have fit within the design of this milling, and so that does make sense. I don't mind the old mini deep carry. I think that new wide one is excellent, but I don't mind this one either, and it is still titanium here and slides into the pocket just as easily as the other one. Now, in terms of the action on here, really, really good. It still has that standard ProTech kick. If you've ever handled a ProTech, you know exactly what to expect. I did hear one person at the show mention that the model that they were showing off, and they were selling, like when the TR3 sold out, they were all sold. So even the one that people were handling ended up getting sold. The model that they were showing off had a little bit slower action, and I didn't handle that one, so I can't say for sure, but mine definitely has my standard ProTech kick, exactly what I've come to expect from my ProTech autos, and so wouldn't be super concerned there, but worth mentioning that I did hear that from at least one person, and so I did want to point that out. Now, in terms of release, I think they mentioned this one, they're aiming for the end of June. I would imagine same thing with this one that I guessed with the TR3 Integrity, that they'll probably have some at Blade Show Atlanta, and then we'll ship them to retailers after that. Also, don't remember if I mentioned this lanyard hole on the spine here, and really nice placement of that. I love that you don't see it from the side profile. In fact, there's really not a whole lot going on in terms of billboarding or just ugliness on this because it's not reversible. We'll probably see a left-hand model in the future, but we don't have the extra screw holes here. We only have the ProTech logo on the show side and then the maker's mark on that non-show side on the blade itself, and the lanyard hole is nicely tucked away here on the spine where you can't really see it. It is too small for 550 paracord, but if you have some smaller cordage, you still can use a bead here if you are someone who likes adding beads to your knife. But would love to hear your thoughts on this one down in the comments below if you think this is one that you'll pick up once this does release, and also if you have any suggestions for a name for this model. I obviously have no input onto what this ends up getting named, but just curious what comes to mind when you see this. I didn't really have anything that immediately jumped to my mind, but sometimes, you know, you see a design and it just looks like something to you, so would be curious to see what other people thought this should be named. But as usual, leave whatever you want in the comments. I try to respond to as many comments as I can, get to probably 99% of them, so definitely leave that in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting that notification button. And also wanted to remind you that I do have a live show with my co-host Tim over at Tim's School of Fish called Just a Tip. It airs every Tuesday, including this Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central. And this week's topic is going to be knives we've picked up so far in 2024. We're obviously a little over a month in now, so we're going to be talking about the knives we picked up, talking with the chat on the knives they picked up, and just kind of sharing what we've gotten so far, if there's anything we're looking at, stuff like that. So would love to see you tune in there, but if not, we of course do air that on replay, so you can watch it after that airs. And I do have a playlist with every episode we've done so far in the playlist section of my channel. But thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great day. Take care.